Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Weekly Academics, and you are listening to Faiza Inamdar. And I am back after the break that I took. And now, today, we will be discussing and starting the second chapter, that is Factors Leading to the Growth of Nationalism and the Foundation of Indian National Congress. So in this chapter, we'll actually be looking towards what happened after the war ended, after the changes in the administration and all the changes that took place after 1857 War of Independence. So what happened after that war up till the formation of Indian National Congress is what we will be looking towards in this chapter. Okay, so it's practically like the continuation of the story of the struggle towards independence. Okay, so before we begin, I will just explain in short what does the term nationalism really mean. It's a very simple term, nothing much to it. It just simply means a devotion towards the nation or a feeling of patriotism that comes out of a national unity. And this national unity is a result of probably the various similarities, like similarities in the ethnicity, language, religion, caste, history, culture, traditions. All these similarities lead to this feeling of a national unity, which turns into the feeling of nationalism or patriotism, which in turn results into the demand for a self-government, demand for an independent statehood. And this demand is what is the root cause of the entire struggle of independence. Why to do that? Because now they have a demand for an independent statehood. So let's begin. Now the first part to understand in this chapter is the economic exploitation. So even after the war ended, there was a lot of economic exploitation, and how it was that we're going to see over here. So let's see. The first is the peasants' suffering, the suffering of the peasants. So in this case, there was the zamindari system, which made zamindars the landlords of, and the peasants were at the complete mercy of the landlords, and they could be just thrown off by the zamindars as per the wish of the zamindar. So their livelihood, their source of earning was in danger. There was the Rotwari system also, which had the individual peasant proprietorship, but even that was really harsh, because then the peasants had to take a lot of loans from the money lenders. They had to grow what the government officials needed them to grow, pay back to the money lenders, and in order to pay back to the money lenders, they had to reduce the prices of the crops, because the money lenders asked them to do so. So they had to sell their crops at cheap prices, and then they were practically exploited by the money lenders, zamindars, and the government officials. And this all led to an increase in the indebtedness of the peasants. And because of this indebtedness, in Pune and Ahmednagar, the peasants made a full-fledged agrarian revolt in 1875, and it was such a huge revolt that the army had to be brought in to calm it down. Okay, and also not just the indebtedness or the taxation stuff, but the peasants were also forced to grow indigo, opium, jute, and tea. And then these crops became rivals of food crops, because this needed a lot of nutrients from the land. So the soil used to get exploited by these crops. So you need to plant these crops very carefully, but the Britishers asked them to plant only these crops. So then because of this, there was huge famine in UP, Bihar, Bengal, Odisha. Okay, and it took away a toll on lakhs of life, and people were very angry because of this. So like as I said, there was an agrarian revolt also. So all these parts are evidence of economic exploitation. Okay, then there is the stagnated handicrafts. So we've seen this also, that the British imposed heavy duties on goods imported into England, and there were negligible rates imposed on goods exported from England. So India became like a dumping ground for the goods exported from England, and Indians had to pay a huge amount of import rates. So because of this, handicrafts and the trade, textile, craft, trade, all these came to a stagnant end. It just became stagnant because India was not doing the manufacturing anymore. They were just the ground for growing the raw material. So that is the reason why the handicrafts stagnated. Okay. Then there is the dissatisfied educated youth. Now people started taking education. Western education came into picture, and certain people did go and take the education, especially the high class Brahmins. They went into the schools, the Christian missionaries, and they took education. So when they took education, this young people, they realized the fallacies that were there, or the lies that were being told to them, and they were increasingly dissatisfied because they could realize that the high post jobs, like high post jobs for the civil services, or in case of the army, or in case of any public service, were only reserved for the British, and Indians could not reach those high positions even if they had the merit for that. So there is an example of Surendranath Banerjee. He was an ICS officer, an Indian civil service officer, and he was dismissed from the service on superficial grounds. Like, there was no concrete reason to just dismiss him, but he was dismissed. And we know Surendranath Banerjee has been such an important role in the struggle towards independence. So R.C. Mazumdar, he says, and I quote, "The man who was denied an opportunity to serve the British government was destined to be the leader of the great national movement in India." Okay, so this is what R.C. Mazumdar said about Surendranath Banerjee, and he is an example of this dissatisfied, dedicated youth. Coming on to the last point in economic exploitation, that is how the government ignored people's welfare. So there was a promise made in the Queen's Proclamation, if you remember, which said that the material and moral welfare of all the subjects would be the most important consideration for the British, as if after the war. For the Queen, she would look into the material and moral welfare of the people, but that was not really taken care of, because taxes were constantly increasing, and most of the expenditure of the government was not into welfare of the people, but was spent on the defense and military, because British were involved in a lot of wars, like the Afghan War of 1878 to 1880, the Third Burmese War of 1885, and because of all these wars, there was a lot of expenditure on military, on defense. So to be precise, the military budget, it increased from 200 million to 300 million rupees. Okay, that was a huge amount in that time, and this, because of so much of expenditure towards the military, there was very less expenditure in actually taking care of the welfare of the people or raising the standard of living of the people. So the government ignored people's welfare. Okay, so just a quick recap: economic exploitation includes the suffering of the peasants, the handicrafts stagnated, the dissatisfied educated youth, and government ignored the welfare of the people. So that is economic exploitation. And in the next podcast, we will be doing the repressive colonial policies made by the viceroys. So yeah, I'll leave you here. So if you've not seen the earlier series of podcasts for the first war of independence, I recommend you see that, because if you've seen that, it will be easy to understand this chapter further ahead. And also, like the podcast, share it with your friends, subscribe my YouTube channel Faiza Inamdar for all the podcasts. They are all available on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram @weekly.academics. And if there are any doubts, you can put it in the comment section on YouTube or DM me on Instagram. Also, put in your feedbacks in the comment section. If you want me to make a podcast on some specific content, do share it with me and I'll try to do that also. So yeah, that's it for me. Until then, if you want to listen to something soothing, quiet, calm and relaxing in these quarantine times, you can always listen to Your Life in My Voice. And nowadays she's uploading beautiful poems. Dr. Sabiha, she's uploading beautiful poems, so you can go through those if you just want to relax. Until then, you're listening to Weekly Academics and I'm Faiza Inamdar. I'll get back to you soon with the repressive colonial policies. Till then, take care, be safe, be at home. Bye bye.